My name is Dawson Baker, and this is my analysis and recommendations for an expansion over in Germany. The cultural differences between United States and Germany are vast and full of complexities. The major gaps between the two countries are for the majority in all the following categories: individualism, motivation for achievement and success, uncertainty avoidance, and indulgence. I will be comparing the differences in these two cultures whilst describing the issue and recommending any and all changes that should be made to business conduct overseas. Individualism can primarily be described as the way an individual views themselves within their own society, such as the questions in the following statements. Do I describe myself as my own person or as a piece of my society? Do I care for others the same way I would my own family? Do I rely on a community for my way of life? These questions must be asked prior to condoning certain business strategies as you acquire a deeper understanding of who exactly it is you are trying to convince. A higher score in this category would mean more individualistic behaviors, such as sticking close to family members. This is what the website had to say about this topic. When comparing the two countries in this category, Germany tended to stick closer to being honest even if it hurts, focusing on those close to you, making people aware of their mistakes, whereas the USA, we uh, we focus on relying on others while also being self-reliant, expected to take initiative. When it comes to adaptation overseas, um, Cherry had this to say: while individualistic culture can promote high self-confidence and individual ambition, it may also lead to a higher risk of conflict and lack of cooperation among group members. While the United States is generally more focused on the individual, so rather than treat people in a spotlight competitive sense, work groups should identify German values as more of a melting pot and glorify group work instead. Encourage cooperation and make sure the mistakes and shortcomings are properly addressed. Employees should be held to a standard, rewarding and good teamwork rather than expecting initiative. Summarized, Germany is a group-based country rather than an individual one. Motivation towards achievement and success can be described as how you gear to society, or how geared a society is towards accomplishment and reaching a point of recognition, or better defined by the following questions. How focused is the society on competition and being better than the next country? Is the society more focused on individuals who work together rather than attempt to be seen as a separate and more accomplished person? A higher score would mean they are more decisive or competitive, and a lower score would mean the country is more consensus oriented slash quality of life. This is what the website had to say about this category. Um, when it comes to comparing the countries in this specific category, the key points from Germany were that they are decisive, their performance is highly valued, and status is also highly valued. Whereas the USA, individuals stick out and are rewarded for that. Status is also valued, but being the winner here is the goal. Overseas, being the winner is not as recognized. When it comes to recommendations for adapting overseas, both the United States and Germany are geared towards a success-based culture. Both recognize achievement, both in vanity and working skills. As for the need to adapt strategies overseas, it is not required, as the cultures in this sense are fairly similar. However, success is less recognized in winners in Germany. To summarize, treat it relatively the same, however, recognize that Germany is more towards the group culture. Uncertainty avoidance. This value is characterized by the fact of whether or not the country is more cautious towards new ideas or innovation, in the hopes that they can steer away from any negative outcomes. Some examples of this idea includes higher levels of anxiety, threatened by the unknown, tradition-centered, avoids new ideas. A higher score in this category would be defined as a society that generally tries to play it safe and stick to what they know rather than having an open mind. This is what the website had to say about this. Comparing the two, Germany, as based on historical values, is more deductive rather than inductive, which means they would like to know the facts and play it safe rather than just jump into the action. They're certain and detailed, and they're reliant on their expertise. Whereas in the USA, here we are acceptive of new ideas, we are tolerant, and we are heavily opinionated. We fear things, such as past occurrences such as 9/11, but we are free and we understand that. As for my recommendations for any adaptation, Germany is far different from the United States in terms of uncertainty avoidance. This should be apparent according to the history the country has had. Business models in the United States are highly based on taking leaps or risks in order to achieve higher standards. Germany is not the same. The work group should recognize that analytics and facts will go much farther overseas in Germany rather than risk taking and new ideas. Anything set in stone should be considered, but new tactics or methods should be reviewed heavily to format Germany's values. To summarize, certainty should be valued and implemented over risk taking. Indulgence. Indulgence refers to the country's tendency to give in to their own desires or allowing those they have control over to indulge in their own decisions rather than corrective or restraining behaviors. Examples of this include how comfortable an individual is with following their own desires over others, how strict or permissive parents may be towards their children, how the society views people who are more indulgent in their behaviors. A higher score in this category would pertain to how permissive a person from there may be, whilst a society that encourages restraint or restrictions would have a lower score. This is what the website had to say. Comparing the two, this is by far one of the biggest differences in categories. Germany is restrained, they're pessimistic, and indulgence is considered wrong overseas. They have a far different culture that appreciates restraint and control, whereas in the USA, we are heavily indulgent. We do what we want, we work hard to play hard. We discourage, but we accept, as is shown in many parenting values. As for business adaptation, the United States as a whole is practically based on the idea of indulgence. The vast majority of our country does what they wish, sometimes even in a professional environment. To summarize, indulgence is highly discouraged, even shunned. Restraint as a value should be respected. So this is a large cultural differences. These are my works cited.